That's not going to be a mainstream type of thing. I want to be accessible to more people, but that all comes down to what kind of business do you actually want? What's the most important thing to you?
Unconventional Life, the show where I interview successful entrepreneurs, artists, creators, and thought leaders on how they earn their living in non-traditional ways. We will explore how they took the path less traveled, what their revenue model looks like, and why they are prioritizing their passion over their paycheck. I'm your host, Jules Schroeder.
Unconventional Life, welcome. This is your host, Jules Schroeder, tuning in today from Netherlands, Colorado. Today's guest is joining me from Hollywood, out in California. I've got Sarah Dan in the house. Sarah, are you ready to take us down the path less traveled?
I am ready. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have this woman on the show. She is such a powerhouse. You are an entrepreneur, business consultant who over the past 9 years has built a multi-million-dollar business dedicated to helping women monetize their brilliance. You work a lot in the areas of confidence, sales. Unconventional Lifers, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, how to really magnetize your brilliance. You've done a lot with programs, digital courses, one-on-one coaching, as well as your podcast, You're Fucking Welcome, which, let's talk about a title, is amazing. And you've helped thousands of women learn how to combine strategy and soul to create successful businesses. So just great to have you on the show, Sarah. Fill in any gaps that I might have left out and give us a glimpse into your personal life.
No, thank you for that. I feel like you did a very good job of running the gamut there. In a nutshell, I started my business to help women make money doing what they love, right? To live that unconventional life, actually enjoy their careers, enjoy their businesses. And in doing that, right, I think how so many of us we start with the more masculine practical structures, right? Of like what to do and the posting and the emailing and all that kind of stuff. And then as you grow and as you go, you really come to see how much more, the energetics and the mindset and the confidence is more important than anything that you're doing, which is really how, You're Fucking Welcome really came to be. I want to help more women and whoever, feel as though they can own the fact that like, yes, I'm making money. Yes, I'm selling you something. Yes, I believe in what I do and I'm not sorry for it. In fact, like you're lucky to be paying me. And so it feels like it's like taken on this life of its own because I see kind of now that You're Fucking Welcome, like, whereas I was able to apply it really easily to like selling and business, then I'm like, oh, I need to apply this to dating and to this thing. Right. And so it's been this thing where it's like just grown and evolved. And I think it will continue to do so. And that's what I'm so excited to help women with, again, beyond just the selling piece, but how it translates to everything in their lives.
Yeah, I love that. And, Unconventional Lifers, we're going to link her website in the show notes at Sarah, SARA-DANN.com. You have such a great use, even your brand, it's fun. It's got these pinks and these greens and these blues, and it's just this pop of color. And when I see it, and I also know you're in a bit of a transition as well, in the visuals of it potentially, but it's just like, it's beautiful. It embodies so much of that. And I know there was a moment, not too long, in your journey in around 2012, when you really, were starting in this marketing, as a real job, a conventional job in this marketing coordinator, and, had this iteration or had this, moment of like, okay, what else is there? How do I really, how do I get to take that ownership? How do I get to step into my purpose on my terms? And so tell us a little bit about your backstory, like what it was like in 2012, if it was even before that moment, and what it looked like even for you to face, like in your own mind, in your own beliefs, to actually confront, I can do this. And not only can I do this, I'm going to do this. And then the actions that you took to really start to begin that process.
Well, I think that, so my first job and really my only real job out of college was as a marketing coordinator for a small local business. And, I had a skill, like I knew what I was doing. And I also knew that people needed help when it came to their marketing. And it was just a situation where I was like, well, okay, well, I know people need this. And again, I know I'm good at what I do. And I know that there's such an abundance of opportunity therefore, right? Like I just kind of had this mindset that I was like, if I have to knock on every single door in New Jersey, which is where I'm from, like to get enough clients to be able to make money, like that's what I'm going to do. Like I want to work from home. I want to be my own boss. And it's funny that you bring up like the website. And I always like to think that like my brand is kind of sophisticated fun, right? Like I don't want to take myself too seriously. I want to be myself, but I also want to err on the sophisticated side of things. But when I started, of course, just like we all do, we think we have to be buttoned up. We think we have to say things a certain way. I would never curse, years and years ago, right? Like I was like this robotic version of myself. And I think that, of course, wins along the way are a big part of it. But the bottom line is, I think in life and in business, it's a situation where the more we experience things and the older we get, the more freer we feel to just simply be ourselves. And we're okay with who likes it and who doesn't. And so like that really had translated in my business as well, that like, again, I started working with people for, maybe lower amounts of money. And again, a very buttoned up version of myself. But then as I got more confident to say no, as I got more confident to own my worth and, ask for more money, it's just kind of evolved and grown into what I feel is who I was always supposed to be essentially in the first place, right? Like all those layers got removed and the most authentic version of me can come out, which again, I feel like is the experience for so many people and also entrepreneurs.
I love that. And I love how you do what you do. And, I know on your podcast, Unconventional Lifers, definitely check that out. You're fucking welcome. We'll put the links up on the blog as well. You talk about a lot of your journeys, one of your episodes, 7-figure personal shifts you had in 2020. And also even looking at like what it took from like strategy to go to 7 figures and to go, beyond that. And I think it's, and you and I have been, doing this since 2011 with my own business stuff as well, but the landscape's been changing. I know you've been at this like 9+ years in what you've been doing. And so what are you starting to see now, especially for women who want to get into coaching, who want to magnetize and monetize their brilliance, who want to be doing these different, businesses, what feels true now? And what do you see is really taking the women that are really experiencing like that threshold of success further than the ones that, are kind of in the stuck or this perpetual rut?
I don't want to say it from a, fear-based place, but I think we'd all be kidding ourselves to not acknowledge how much busier this industry has become, right? Like for every, one business coach that there was, now there's 20 and everyone's saying the same things and everyone's doing a lot of the same things. And so it's a kind of a corny answer, but I really think that the trend with that comes like people craving authenticity more than ever, right? Like I think the shiny, the fake, the, people who don't really know what they're talking about or who are just doing it to make money, right? I think they have far less of a chance of making it for the long term. And I just think that like, again, I think just after the 1.5 years we had, like, I think people more than ever just want to feel like they're paying people and surrounding themselves with people that they trust. And so just transparency and authenticity and people actually caring about what they do feels like the biggest and the most important trend there is.
Absolutely. And I know, it relates a lot into sales and how they, communicating your like authentic value proposition and things like that. And I know that's a superpower of yours. And I'd love for you, just to share your own experience with the art of selling and just the art of communicating your gifts into the world, into money. Like some people are like, I just want to share for free and give all this value, which is so brilliant. But then when it comes to like conversion, it's like, oh my God, am I going to let people down or what are they going to think about me or whatever it might be? And so I know we're all at different spectrums of that journey, but how have you navigated that in your own life? And what perspective or framework can you offer to someone who might be navigating their own version of that?
It's really funny that I feel like I talk about this so much now because I don't feel like I ever intentionally set out to like be quote good at sales or like to be an expert on that. But I feel as though one of the things that I've done really well from the very beginning and like, therefore I'm always encouraging people to do themselves is like, we start with purpose, right? Because if I am just sitting there trying to sell you on something because I want to make the money, I'm not, of course, going to articulate it and share it as powerfully as I possibly could if I were to just deeply believe in that thing, right? Like deeply believe in why people need it and then speak to it authentically, like speak to why I'm genuinely excited about it, right? And so I feel like a 2-step framework, if you will, is like, of course, this is why I'm selling this jewelry, whatever it is. Like, this is why I believe so deeply deeply in it. And I think that that's an internal job first, right? Like making sure that you yourself are clear, and then being able to step two, essentially being able to share it with people how you would talk anyway, right? Like, I feel like I see so many people who are the kindest, most lovely people. And then when you get them on like a sales like pitch or sales page, all of a sudden they're acting like a car salesman. I'm like, you don't talk like that. Like, you're acting as though you have to be somebody else to sell. And that's not true at all. Like, people, when you share because you're genuinely excited and you genuinely feel as though, again, like the thing that you created did this great thing for me, and I know it can do great things for other people. And when you just speak to it with that authentic enthusiasm, I really do deeply feel and believe that people feel that on the other side, right? And my number one marketing rule is people are selfish, right? So, of course, there's that strategic piece of it where somebody's going to pay you because they're getting something that they want. So we authentically articulate why we created this thing and why you think it's so amazing, but in a way that applies to what it's going to do for them, how it's going to change their life, because that's the only way that they're ever going to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, even just in that concept, even being able to command more for prices or to articulate your value more specifically, what do you, how have you been able to do that? Because I know, as you and I were talking about briefly before, it's like, as you've been at this longer, you do command higher price points and things like that. But sometimes even being able, like, I believe higher price points, communicate through it's more specific and the more results. So the result that commands it, ultimately commands the price for it. And so what's your relationship to that? And then even if we're asking for more money, and any perspective you can offer there.
Well, I think that I have a slightly different business model in the sense that, like, it's been largely groups, right? Like, so I haven't been the coach who's like just doing one-on-one and kind of charging more. Like, I've kind of liked keeping my prices a little bit more on the moderate side, but also therefore like moderate access to me, right? Like, I know how I want to live. I know how I want to operate. And so like, I keep prices and I keep offers aligned with that. So I don't feel as though I have a million clients. I know I personally can't handle that. Like, I just know that I can't energetically. And so my point in saying that is, I feel like of course, time is more limited, and as your demand goes higher, yes, you have to raise your prices in order for it to make sense for you, right? And of course, like, making sure that it makes sense for your people, which is a hard thing to say because it's so layered and we can't guess what people can afford. But I always, I joke because I see a lot of people where they're getting advice from business coaches who are selling to entrepreneurs. You can charge high ticket. Yes. Charge $20,000. Somebody has that. If they really want it, they'll make it happen. And it's like, but no, if you're selling, to stay-at-home moms about like parenting packages, like, is that necessarily realistic? I'm not sure. Whereas like, there are so many other opportunities if you wanted to do something that is a little bit more scaled. Right. And so, I mean, the bottom line with all of that to say is that we have to make sure that we feel really confident that we can back up the prices that we're charging, right? I want to feel as though I know that this is worth every single penny, right? But I also feel adequately compensated for what it's taking of me. And it's creating the circumstance that I want for my business, right? Like, I want to reach more people. And so if I'm reaching more people, I can't really just charge $20,000. That's not going to be a mainstream type of thing. I want to be accessible to more people, but that all comes down to what kind of business do you actually want? What's the most important thing to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, as Unconventional Lifers, as a woman, you've been doing it for 9 years. So I'm sure you've asked yourself that questions many times over the course of 9 years, and just the iterations of it and what it takes to be fluent and to navigate, what was working then with what's working now, and to stay current and staying true with what also feels true in yourself and beyond what goes true on the outside. And, community building is such an important part of this. And how have you been able to effectively, engage community and keep engaging community, in a way that you then develop and nurture, and then are able to, transform people who get to come experience you into paying customers? What do you find that's working well now for that, and any perspective you could offer there?
I think that the biggest and most helpful thing that I've been able to do, and what I, of course, encourage other people to do as well, is not to, beat the dead horse in terms of the authenticity piece of it, but we're building community because we want to. right? If you are going to build an Instagram, if you're going to build a Facebook group, the goal is for you to actually want to be there, right? Not just treating your people like they're a bunch of credit cards with pulses, essentially, right? And so I think that I've done a good job of navigating being the business owner, right? Where it's, I'm not sorry that I'm selling something. I am always selling something. I'm not here to be everybody's best friend, balanced out with really sharing the human side, whether that's, oh, my dog was sick this weekend. And, like sharing like little quirky, like personality things or asking questions that aren't so business oriented that I don't make people feel as though I'm only here to, again, sell to them, right? There's a balance between being a leader and being a business owner. And I think just like doing your best to straddle that line, you have those boundaries, but you're also a human. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I love that. Unconventional Life Fairs. I know you also have the 500K sales system and Show Up and Blow Up, which are different courses and offerings that, we'll link up on the website for anyone that wants to check them out. And, just the nature of like humanity, COVID, where we've been, reinvention. I'm personally been in a reinvention. I feel like COVID was has been such a great opportunity to reflect and like pause and to shift. And for some people getting into entrepreneurship for the very first time, some of you might be listening to this being like, I want that now, or you might've been doing it for a while and you're like, now I've been doubling down on that. And so what do you really think it's important as women, for just women to consider as they move into the realm of business, but also this like holistic perspective of success? It's how they, business is a vehicle is the way that I see it. And I imagine you might see it, similarly in your own way. And so how to navigate, all the different, roles that we have as women, but also the opportunity for what business can provide for women. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's the most basic question, but the most important one that you have to ask yourself, I think on a daily basis, let alone in a big business perspective, but it's, what do you want? Because I think that it's so easy to chase, big money months, or it's so easy to, I've had conversations with a couple of clients lately where, they find themselves launching this, branch of their business or wanting to do this stream of income, right? From, things like COVID, like scaring people, especially in the sense that like we feel probably a lot less secure than, we did 2 years ago. Right. And so they're pursuing these new avenues or things, but it's not necessarily because they want to. And I think that I personally think that the hardest thing about entrepreneurship has been for me seeing all of the potential and all of the things that I could do and like navigating what to actually do, because we can't possibly do all of it. And so I think when you ask yourself this very simple question of like, would I do this if I had $1 billion in my bank account? Like, that's the question, because that gives you such a clear and an instant moment of clarification in terms of whether you actually want to pursue something or not. And I just really feel as though, like, especially depending on what you want for your life, more than anything, I want peace. I want freedom. I want no drama. I want to live a big life, but a simple life, an uncomplicated life. And so really like making sure that I'm constantly cutting off any arms that don't need to be there. Right. Is like, it's just it's a constant practice and constant battle, if I'm being totally honest. And so for anyone, listening, kind of like going through that, just give yourself permission to recognize that there are a million different ways to make money. There are a million different ways to be successful. What do you actually want to do? Do those things and do those things well, making sure that you're actually building a life that you want to build, because the last thing in the world you want to do is work way longer hours than you want to and make yourself miserable just to hit a bunch of goals that you don't actually care about in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's so well said, and definitely been such a gift, I think, of this time period and reflective period for all of us. And, the word clarity comes to mind, and how to even know the target, that you're shooting for. And I know you specialize a lot, whether it's like helping women get clear on like, what is their income goal, or how exactly are they going to get there, or monetize like their gifts. And what is a simple framework? I'm sure it's obviously, tailored to a lot of different people, but what's one framework that you use, just in terms of a monetization strategy, that if some of our listeners want to try it on in their business, and it's not obviously one size fits all, but just to spark some ideas and places for people to look?
Well, I think one of the best things that we can always do is look at where we've gotten results in the past, right? Because I see a lot of people, maybe you lost 10 pounds and now you want to lose another 20, but then you're looking at a bunch of different frameworks. And it's like, well, why don't you just use use the same framework that worked for you previously. And I think it's the same kind of thing with business. A lot of people think that the next level, the next money goal has to be a sexier strategy or an entirely different thing. And I think it's really important to kind of double down on the way in which you've done things before. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it exactly the same way. But I think a lot of people have a tendency to abandon themselves when they want to get to the next level, and again, try to do it somebody else's way. And so for me, I know that like, I'm a very practical person. So, okay, let's say if I want to make $100,000, okay, well, I'm going to make $100,000 by selling, 100 of this, 20 of that, so on and so forth. And here's my plan. And here's how I'm going to set myself up to do that. And again, create the plan and work the plan. That's what works for me. Whereas like I've worked with more spiritual entrepreneurs, and not that this was their fault at all, but they had a whole different way of goal setting. And because they were making more money than me, I thought I had to do it their way. And I really wound up screwing myself. And I had to kind of come back to what I know to be true. And so for anyone, I think like really being self-aware and really being honest with yourself around where have you gotten the best results in the past and how did you do that? And how can we recreate that magic in this new way?
Yeah. So good. Unconventional Lifers, we've got a great giveaway coming up just a few moments here after this rapid fire round. Just to expand on that, a little bit further. So Sarah, I've got a series of lightning questions coming at you at the rapid fire portion of the show. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question. Yeah. Question number 1, fill in the blank. If you really knew me, you would know what?
I'd like to say that I'm loyal. I have a small circle, but a very loyal circle. And so those that really know me, I believe really know that.
Love that. What is one reoccurring thought that you have, whether it's like a dream or whether it's like a voice of the critic or whether it's just something urging you to do something? What's one reoccurring thought you have that you haven't actualized yet?
I'm laughing because you said dream. I have a reoccurring dream that I was a member of the Jersey Shore show, living in Jersey. And it's like literally like every couple of weeks, it's just a very funny thing but like I was the boring one who was like on my laptop while everyone else was like partying and I was like working on my business, and then nobody knows who I am. And I have this dream all the time.
Oh my God. I love that. So good. Next question. What practices do you do regularly, whether it's in the morning or evening or whenever it is, that you feel like set you up for the framework for success?
I just really know that it's my job to calm down. Like this morning, I was really anxious and nervous, not nervous, but I just had a lot to do. And so I like told myself I didn't have time to work out. And I was like, no, work out. And like, you will feel better. And doing that, like the things that I was struggling with mentally, literally, like I had the answers for everything. And so I just know that I need to, in those moments where I'm anxious, choose to give myself what I need in that moment instead of rushing through to the next thing.
Yeah. So good. Love that. Lastly, Sarah, what does living the unconventional life mean to you?
It means not settling for the norm, allowing yourself to really honor what you want and go after it.
So good. Sarah, Dan, everybody. Sarah, tell us about the giveaway that you've got for one of the listeners.
So I've got my You're Fucking Welcome mini course, which is really just an audio, and it's a workbook to help you get anchored in confidence in terms of what it is that you're selling, so that you feel like, hey, this is the offer. This is what it costs. You're fucking welcome for letting you pay me. You getting really solid in that is step number 1. And so this mini course allows you to do that. And I think can be such a game changer in terms of your launches and all of that.
Yeah, so good. Unconventional Lifers, you can head over to the website at unconventionallifeshow.com, click on the podcast and the giveaway tab to enter to win that giveaway. It will air for 7 days after this episode. You can enter to win that. And Sarah, where did your name come from? You're fucking welcome. Because I'm sure people have asked you that, like, where did you come up with that name and what's the story behind it?
Well, it really came up accidentally when I started my business, I was dead broke. And so I never had a problem selling, right? Like I wasn't afraid. Like it was like, oh, the phone bill is going to get turned off. Like I have no choice but to sell. And so, in speaking to so many women who were like, oh, should I email again? Like I'm going to annoy them, or, I'm afraid to like market this thing. I'm like, no, the attitude needs to be like, you're fucking welcome for emailing you. You're fucking welcome for letting you pay me for this thing. And like I said earlier, like when you start with really believing in the thing you're saying in the email or really believing in the offer itself, like there's the guilt really like washes away, right? Like, that people are fortunate to hear about your stuff. And so that's the goal attitude. And again, it's applied to everything. You're fucking welcome for swiping on you on Tinder. Like it's just everything, right? Like you're the gift, you're the leading lady. And so it's important to just embody and remember that.
Yeah, so good. Sarah, for those that want to learn more about you, follow along your podcast, learn more about what you're up to in the world, what's the best place for people to go ahead and do all of that?
Definitely check out the podcast. You're fucking welcome. And my Facebook group still is probably the place where I spend the most time. It's called Unstoppable Women Entrepreneurs. And I'm on Instagram, SarahDan_. But yeah, like the podcast and the Facebook group especially are my favorite places to really hang out and show up and all of that.
Yeah, awesome. We'll put all those links up at the website, unconventionallifeshow.com. You definitely check out the group, Unstoppable Women Entrepreneurs. I think you're like 13,000 or something like that of members. I know there's a lot of women you get to come in contact with, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So definitely Unconventional Lifers, go check her out. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and to share your brilliance and just love what you're doing in the world. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.